Hi, this is Philip Mason with Incredible Fathers, and I just wanted to have a little discussion with you over video here and talk about this country that we live in, the United States of America, and talk about the U.S. Constitution and how that relates to being a father and why it's so important that both of those be together. And so, first of all, I want to just tell you about something that happened to me recently. My daughter and I were in the truck and we were driving somewhere. And my daughter asked me, so what do you think about all these things that are happening in the country, Dad? There's these claims of racism. There's these threats against the Constitution. There's all this going on with the coronavirus. What do you think about all this? And so we had this absolutely incredible discussion, and I wish I'd captured it on video so I could share it with you. But I just want to share with you a couple principles from that discussion that we had. So the first one I want to talk about is accountability. So sometimes when we talk about accountability, we talk also about responsibility, and they go hand in hand. It's pretty much, in a large measure, it can be the same principle. It's kind of like reading and writing. So the U.S. Constitution, it's the law of the land here in the United States. So it is the standard by which we govern everything else here in this country. And when the framers of the Constitution put it together, they had this expectation that we could build a great country off of it. And they knew that if we didn't have that foundation, there would be no way for us to build a great country off of it. And because of that, there is an inherent responsibility upon each of us to do those things that lead to freedom so that we preserve our own personal liberties. And as fathers, we have a responsibility to teach our children about freedom and what that means and what you have to do to maintain freedom. Because freedom requires constant maintenance. There's always threats to freedom, and people will take freedom away from you. Corrupt and wicked men will take freedom away from you. Those who want to gain control and power over government or of other people's lives, they were always seeking for ways to do that. So as free men, free women, we have to make conscious effort to be free, and we have to do certain things in our lives. And so accountability is built in inherently to the U.S. Constitution. So we have these rights that we've been given, and those rights come with responsibility. And we are accountable, as the founders said, to God for how we act before Him. And so it used to be in the old days when we had kings or dictators or emperors or other types of rulers who would take freedom away from people. That responsibility rested upon them. And those emperors or those kings, they issued decrees or commandments or laws that forced their people to do things the way they wanted to do it. But under a U.S. Constitution, it says, we the people, we will be responsible for our own actions, we will elect our own representatives to government, and we will build our own good laws. And so we all have an inherent responsibility to be accountable to each other and to God and to our leaders that we elect to maintain this freedom. And that's really important because as families, our freedom depends upon the law of the land, and we don't want people taking away our liberties. And so we work hard to maintain our freedoms that are established by our U.S. government and established by the U.S. Constitution. So for example, one of those rights that we have is the freedom to worship and to worship God according to the dictates of our own conscience. And the U.S. Constitution allows us to do that. And so the state doesn't have control over religion. And that's one of the rights of government. But we're seeing here with recent events that freedom worship is being restricted. And it's being restricted in a very dramatic, unprecedented way that we've never seen before. And so as fathers, it's our responsibility, it's our accountability before God to maintain that freedom and to teach that to our children and to allow others to worship God how, where, or what they may. And that's so important. So let's talk for a moment about the second principle. We just got done talking about accountability. And let's talk a little bit about another principle. This is the principle of agency, and this is a principle number 2 that we're going to talk about. So agency is very vital, and it is probably the single most important principle that the U.S. Constitution preserves for us as a people and us as fathers. And as we talked about earlier, accountability and responsibility go hand in hand. And agency is the power to choose. It's choice. And so in a free land like the United States of America, we have the power to choose. We can choose to do whatever we desire to do, as long as it doesn't hurt someone else's ability and freedom to choose to do whatever they want to do. And so there's a little bit of a preface to that, and that is, when we're born into this world, all of us have certain inalienable rights, as the founders of the Constitution teach. And we have a responsibility to allow all people to have those certain inalienable rights that are God-given. And the U.S. Constitution helps preserve those. So as fathers and as people and as citizens of this country, we have a right to preserve other people's choice. And the reason why we have choice is so we can choose the right. We can choose the right way to act. We can choose to uphold good laws. We can choose to teach our children correct principles. We can choose to be good and righteous men and women. And we can teach our children to grow up and to keep our country strong and to become greatness, to become the type of greatness that allows a great free society to really thrive and prosper and become magnificent, as we've seen in the United States in past generations. It's often been said that freedom is only one generation away from extinction, and I think we are facing a crisis in our country that has more to do with, will we uphold the laws of this land, and will we allow people to maintain their agency and their freedom of choice? And that's really the big question right now. I believe in the Constitution. It is so vital, and all of us have a choice to make. Will we believe in the U.S. Constitution, and will we support the laws of the land that have been established and have been proven to be good and have allowed our country to grow and prosper beyond any other country in the world? So as fathers, we have a marvelous responsibility to teach our children that the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land, preserves both agency, which we sometimes call freedom to choose, and accountability, which is a responsibility to ourselves, to our families, to God, and to our elected leaders to be able to maintain this freedom and to be able to act in such a way that freedom can be maintained and that we allow others to have freedom. So those are the two great governing principles that are associated with the U.S. Constitution, and the reason why I personally feel that the U.S. Constitution is inspired by God and that the framers of the Constitution feel that it was inspired by God. Is it a perfect document? No. And was there compromise involved in creating it? Yes. But God inspired those men to come together and to be conclusive and to say, this is the law of the land, and we want all people to have these same rights and privileges. And we should work hard to maintain that as fathers. As incredible fathers, we should understand that the U.S. Constitution, the law of the land, allows us to be happy as families and to give us freedom to do what we want, to teach our children in a certain way, and to give them the opportunities that life here in the United States provides. And without that, we would be miserable as families, and we would be subject to dictators, to kings, to emperors, to communism, to socialism, to fascism, and every other form of government that's corrupt and only serves a certain class or group or single leader. But we believe in freedom that serves all people. We the people and we the family, we want to be governed by principle, and that principle that's most important in the Constitution is the principle of agency and also the principle of accountability. And so remember that and teach these things to your children, and don't forget how important they are. This is Philip Mason, and I'm signing off. Good talking with you.